The electric guitar world, let's face it, it's full of a bunch of Me Too products. Companies copying other companies' stuff from years and years ago. Finally, a company has come out with something that is both new and vintage feeling. We are Powers Electric Dealers. Finally, we're going to tell you what makes these guitars cool, unique, and different. Stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. If you want to support the channel, you can visit our spring store link below for custom swag. Check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional. Buy things from us, all those cool things. So we are finally, 2 years to the day today, dealers for Powers Electric. And if you don't know what Powers Electric is, that's okay. You maybe haven't been living under a rock. It is a boutique offshoot from Taylor Guitars, helmed by Andy Powers, CEO and master guitar designer from Taylor Guitars, also snappy dresser and old soul. He has built these guitars, and they are boutique. They are, what's another word for bespoke? Would be
bespoke.
They are bespoke guitars, and we are very glad to finally have them in store. They are unique. We're going to tell you all about them, kind of what break down what makes them different. There's a bunch of little design choices that Andy made, and the pickups are also very, very different. So kind of at the outset, I guess the thing that we can put forth is these are inspired by a place of vintage music and surf culture and hot rods. And apart from that, they are very different from anything else out there on the market today.
Yeah, it's also maybe let's say the most thought out electric guitar that we've had maybe ever. You think about 50s and 60s electric guitars that were coming out as new. I'm not sure if as much painstaking thought went into maybe a Telly as a...
Yeah, I mean, that's a good call. I mean, think about it. We're, 70 years, 80 years removed from the start of those. And they were so good that a lot of those are still in production today, largely unchanged. But we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I think there's a benefit from guitar manufacturers, particularly someone like Andy, taking all of the knowledge from not just electric guitar discipline, but acoustic guitar discipline and electronics and magnets, like we'll talk about with the pickups, and bringing all of that together to create something that has its own vibe to it and kind of addresses things that you learn.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Andy, other than him being an old soul, is there's something unique about him where I suspect if he decided to focus his attention into any particular aspect of the guitar world, say he wanted to just build the very best tube amp, he would dive into that and build a really cool tube amp. And I say that because long before these came out, I remember listening to him on a podcast. I think it was with the Fretboard Journal. It may have been someone else, but he, in the midst of this podcast, and it was during the pandemic, started talking about, like, geeking out about magnets and what he was learning about magnets. And it was to me, it was like a clue that he's working on some kind of a pickup.
Yeah.
And he didn't say that, but it's just like, that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
So
I think these have been a long time coming. I mean, Chris and I were at the factory last year. We got kind of the full deep dive. I was back there a few weeks ago. I got the deep dive again. And there's, like, it was similar kind of story, but even more, like, both times there's special little things that he throws in there that he may not think is like, oh, yeah, I did that and it's whatever. But it's all cool. Like, I mean, it's very much, this was his passion project through COVID and, like, trying to tackle the electric guitar. He did create something that I don't think is comparable to anything else that we carry.
Right.
But there's just, I mean, like I said, every single thing is thought out on this guitar.
Well, and like I said at the onset, so many guitars are a copy of an old guitar or has that as kind of a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you get into, like, really bizarre guitars with swappable pickups and stuff, there's something initially that's there that comes from like a Strat or a Les Paul or a Tele. You know, I'm a huge fan of PRS guitars, right? But there's Gibson Fender DNA in all of those.
Yeah.
And that's what's really unique about these is he's an archtop and acoustic guitar designer.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of went into a lot of this. But they're different shapes. There's a lot of surf culture. He is a surfer in SoCal.
Yeah.
And he also loves hot rods, and you can see all of that influence in here. We'll call out specific things. But the shape is different. These are the A types. Which is the only type that's currently there. And they are available in either the camtail tremolo or the hardtail, which is the newer offering. We'll talk about the pickups and everything, but they are cool looking. Now these have really nice metallic finishes on there. They're available with a two-tone finish now, and also in really nice flame and quilt tops with different bursts and transparent finishes. And I want one. They are super light. If you ever labor under the weight of an electric guitar for a long time, there's no F-holes in these, but they are fully hollow instruments that are braced in a very unique way. And you've gotten to go through it, so I'll let you kind of do the dive.
Yeah, so they are hollow bodies made out of ash, shamel ash, urban ash, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, that's an old school guitar thing right there. Everybody wants a Tele made out of ash. Now you get a Powers Electric made out of ash.
And shamel ash is interesting because it's almost like really, really good mahogany.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single thing with what is going on with the body is thought out of how it's connected to the body. So he went off on the kind of tailpiece and whatever. How on certain classic jazz masters and Jaguars, they pull. So he came up with his own way of how to set this in there. Also, every single piece of hardware on here is made there.
It's bespoke.
Yeah, it's bespoke, which I think is one of the more, with Taylor and Powers, something that not a lot of people think about, but if they want to make something, they create the machinery to be able to make it, which is really cool.
And where these are made is interesting because if you ever get a chance to go to the Taylor factory, it's a lot of fun, but it's kind of in multiple buildings. And there's a building off to the side that has some rooms and offices and kind of a skunk works area, and that's where these are getting built. It's where Andy's workshop is. And we've walked through there and seen some cool things that I can't tell you about, but
some things that may never see the light of day, unfortunately.
But that's where these are built. And I remember, I think it was last year when we were there, we kind of ducked under that one kind of garage door, got in there, and there were all of it was the machine shop.
Yeah.
And there were just chunks of this material kind of laying on the ground. You could see where they were hand stamping the camtail tremolo stuff. The machine turned top. I love these guitars.
It's very cool. So speaking of the knobs, these have similarly colored knobs. They will all be somewhat matched to the color scheme of the guitar. So we have some cool colors. So we got the cool color knobs. But these are made of surfboard resin, which is cool. To evoke the feeling of how he described, which you surfed. I'm not a surfer, right? But when you glass a new board and then all the resin builds up on the ground and you chip it up, it's got the layers of the different colors. So that's first of many surf call-outs here.
What's cool about that is, it's surf hot rod, right? So that has a pairing in the hot rod paint world. Yeah. Because the car paints would level and kind of create this own thing too. So yeah.
So it's just I love the way they look. He talked a lot about the feel of grabbing a new board. It's he talked about
you don't have to wax this though.
Plastics that make you feel good when you touch them. They're a little warm. But bridges on here is really cool. We'll see different ones that we have coming in, but there's different materials that they use.
So these are ebony. Right?
These are, I believe, like the Delrin.
Oh, the Delrin. And then there's ebony and then there's brass.
There's ebony and brass. So different tonalities, different feel, which you can pair with different types of pickups. So these are the full Faraday 42, FF42 pickups. There's also the partial Faraday, which when we get a couple more in that we have on order, I think it's worth it to do a kind of a comparison because they do sound different, but they do sound very unique. And paired with the hollow body and everything, you get sort of the best of that hollow old school sound with, it's good sound. It's cool to see how they all kind of mix together.
And they're completely from the ground up a different, pickup design than you're used to. I mean, they look very different. They are single coil pickups. The full Faraday covers that we have make them silent. They've got all of the punch, but they're using like an entirely different approach, different magnets. When we were there, he was talking about a lot of people think of aluminum as not very magnetic, but it does have a weak magnetic field, which he showed us with this really long tube and kind of a rare earth neodymium magnet or something. And you can see how slow it goes through there and the pull that it has. And it's that kind of deep dive into the geekery of magnets that he's gone down that influenced how these get made. Yeah. So the full Faradays, they're covered completely. They've got a really warm and robust sound, and the partial Faradays are a little bit brighter and introduce some noise because they're not completely sealed. And I think a lot of guys who have really want a lot of high gain tend to like those. I really like these full Faradays, particularly like overdriven too.
Yeah, it sounds really nice. So fingerboard, Hunter and Rosewood. Headstock overlay, also you can kind of see, I mean, it's a big chunk of Hunter and Rosewood, which is cool. He went off about how the head plate overlay extends to go underneath the nut, which is cool. And
ties into the fingerboard.
Yeah.
And that's unique because usually the nut is at the end of the fingerboard and it's kind of separating the headstock overlay, which I think, generally speaking, in design has just kind of been an afterthought, if one even exists. But in this case, the combination of the neck material, the overlay, the fingerboard, and how it's tied in ties into a whole design of how he wants the neck to move in connection with the guitar. Yeah.
And then the little logo kind of plate on the headstock, also connection to car culture, stamping your time back in the day. Every visual aspect is either surf or car related.
Well, that's why I love the end of the camtail tremolo. Every single one's different because they're hand stamped.
Yeah.
Like the numbers would be on those hot rods that would go down through like SoCal and Salt Flats Racing and stuff. You would literally just bang it on there, and it's done. The other thing about the neck is it's a really thoughtful profile. It's not too thick. It's not too thin, and it corresponds to a really unique compound radius fingerboard that's different from your typical compound radius fingerboard.
Yeah, he talked a lot about work that he was doing on older tellies and stuff where people were getting fret out issues and all that, but they wanted a more curved thing. So it's almost like this offset, asymmetrical kind of compound radius. And as he said when we was talking about it, you don't really feel it, you don't really notice, but that's kind of the point of it. You don't want to be noticing like any sort of hindrance when you're playing. It should just feel comfortable, and it's very comfortable. And then also the kind of heel and how this comes in. It's just a comfy guitar. Front of the full Faraday pickups and the back plate here are this engine turned aluminum kind of thing that's stamped with the serial number. And he also talked about how that's not the easiest thing to do or the funnest, but it looks cool, so they're going to do it. These are two of the solid colors. Silver Jade Mach 1. I wonder what that's inspired by. You know what I'm saying? Little going Mach 5. This is Chroma Borealis. And they had another kind of iridescent color there that it just said on the sign, help us name this.
Yeah.
I don't know what they actually landed on, but Kate Davidson and Mike Venezia wanted to call it Chroma Chameleon, which I think is like a perfect name
Chroma
Chameleon.
So, I helped name a color on one of those T5s once, and now I don't even remember what it was. It was like amethyst or something. Smoked amethyst.
It was some smoke related. That was cool. So before we listen to him, obviously three-way switch, volume, tone. Talk about the camtail, because I think that's the sleeper coolest part of these guitars. Why I would pick the camtail one. This design is really awesome.
So if I had to pick three features, it'd be one, the weird frets. So because it's basically compound on each fret, right?
Yeah.
Part of it's flatter, part of it's rounder. You don't even notice, and it works really well. The unique design of the pickups, and then yes, the camtail. So the camtail is the simplest way, and I say that I'm sure it's not simple to machine, but from a design standpoint, there's no moving parts to accomplish what they've done. And when I first heard the design camtail, I wasn't sure what they meant, but it takes some, I think, inspiration from a camshaft. what he's done is he's changed the radius that the string is going to cross over on this Bigsby styled tremolo, depending upon the gauge of the string. And so if you look really closely at it, you'll see shallower valleys, deeper valleys, or even a increased cam so that the string tension is the same. And you can get these cool pedal steel style bends with the tremolo, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you can fret a whole chord, bend down, come back. One, it stays in tune way better than any Bigsby I've ever played on, but each string is going to kind of detune at the same rate, and so you can do whole chord bends, you can do double stop bends, and stay, intonated well.
It also has a really nice kind of thought out feature where there's a set screw when it comes to it coming back into position. And so, if you broke a string or you wanted to down tune or something, like there's kind of a back point. So it bends forward and then returns to position. That screw, he did tell us, can shear off. So if someone pulled it back, it would allow them to go back. It would just shear off. You could also remove it. You could replace it. But if you wanted a full floating where you wanted to bend up as well, you just basically change that. I wouldn't shear it off. I would back it out. But I thought that was a really nice kind of aesthetic of or design choice of here's how we want it to work. If you want it to work this way, you can. There's a benefit to doing it the way it's designed.
Yeah.
Bending a whole chord in tune with a tremolo is cool.
It's very cool and something that I don't think a lot of people are used to or go deaf to because they're, doing a Strat tremolo or doing a Bigsby or something. It's just part of the sound. But this is like a really nice, precise, clean pedal steel kind of sound, which is awesome. So I played on this one with the camtail. I like the camtail. These are the same pickups.
Mm-hmm. This is also cool, by the way. If you're not a tremolo person, this is a top load, very quick string change stop tail bridge. So you can see it's slotted. There's a spot for the ball ends. And so, this would be a breeze to change strings on.
Yeah.
So
take a listen.
All right, so there you have it. Very cool sound, clean, pushed. I love these guitars. I want one of these guitars. You want one too, don't you?
I do. So when we were out there, we played. We got to jam a few other dealers and stuff. Ran it through pedals, ran through all kinds of different amps and sounds, and they sound good really anywhere. Today we had the Josh setup, which is the condenser and the dynamic on the tube amp, little bit of reverb, EQ's pretty much just straight up, and then a little bit of tube crunch, not distortion, but you can kind of hear. They're very dynamic, so you can play lightly. You know, it's get a really nice clean tone. I do like being able to dig in a little bit, just a little amp push, and I think these really excel with that. But Andy, of course, pulls out distortion and phaser and delay and all this stuff, and it sounds really good.
Yeah.
You can get really hot with them, play some hot licks, or you can do what I kind of associate him more with is the pretty clean jazz kind of chord melody stuff. And it's just, they're really versatile guitars, but like a lot of things that he has done with Taylor, it's all focused on design choices that make it more comfortable, easier to play, kind of a player's dream kind of thing.
Well, he's such a good player,
Yeah.
you know, so I think it really helps to inform, you know, just creating kind of the best guitar,
Yeah.
you know.
And so he described it as if he would have been alive back then and taken inspiration from things around him, like Leo Fender was doing, what he would have created based on sounds he likes, looks that he likes. These are both finishes that I really dig, but very excited for the quilt top that we have coming, kind of in the Cabernet Red burst. We do have a couple tops picked for some bird's eye and some flame, really cool stuff. But also, there are not a lot of these out there.
No.
Right now, they don't make a ton of these, and they are sort of like a lot of brands that we like. They're really a custom shop, you know, so it's like they had them there with all of Kurt's Porsche collection and just matched colors.
Not his VW bus collection?
They did have the buses as well.
Okay.
So what they basically said is if somebody wants one and they want to match the color to their hot rod, their old C10, whatever, we can do that color. I think they love experimenting with new colors and
They seem to.
bursts and stuff. But, you know, you can really make one of these your own, choose all the aesthetic components, choose the pickups that you want in there, the tailpiece, because they are kind of a custom shop. And I don't know if this is something that they really want thrown out there because it won't be like this forever. But Andy insists on having his hands on every single one that goes out.
Get in early, people.
So, you know, at a certain point, they're going to grow and they're going to be more widely available. But at this point, every single Powers that gets finished passes through Andy's hands. And if you have a Taylor, you've ever dealt with warranty with Taylor, they're some of the best at it. We talked about that in a video. They've
warranted stuff they shouldn't have warranted.
Yeah. However, right now, they haven't, you know, onboarded warranty centers across the country with their dealers because that's their whole thing. Andy wants to get his hands on it, see what went wrong, fix it, whatever he has to do. So I think Aaron, who is, you know, one of the guys at Taylor who's headed this project with Andy, he was like, yeah, we get them back here, we do what we got to do with them. I think they've had maybe one or two that have gone back, but this is definitely a passion project for a small group of people there, headed by Andy, and they are taking so much care with these guitars because I think they really believe in them. And I do think we don't carry a lot of boutique electrics. I mean, we've had some stuff in here. We got some smaller brands, but this is kind of a different class because it's like they're not to say this is a bad thing, but they're not building like a Jazzmaster body and getting Goto hardware and winding pickups. It's like this is every single piece of this has a connection to something that inspires Andy and also is like thought out to be the best version of whatever it may be. Hardtail, tremolo, pickups, whatever. It's really
They also
cool.
have the unique aspect, kind of like our Taylor used to benefit from, where it's a boutique brand with all the resources of Taylor.
Yeah.
Right? So they're built next to this giant guitar factory that has all these resources.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. Some other nods, they come with a gig bag, which I think is a increasingly more modern approach.
Yeah.
And the gig bag is killer.
It's it's not your everyday.
It's not your everyday gig bag. Taylor makes it, and it's even got like reproduced vintage Porsche seat and panel material on, which I love because I love Porsches. That's kind of like vintage 911. I've seen Kurt's. I was like, I'm kind of jealous.
With the kind of like camel colored leather.
Yeah.
And it's really good looking. And Andy made the gig bag to where you open it up and you're viewing the guitar this way instead of this way, because he's like, I always see the guitar like that. I want to see it how the crowd sees it. Yeah, they're a really nice gig. I mean, it looks like a old like gun case, really pretty gig bag.
Going back to the colors, I'm going to tell you something. I love this color. I'd really like to have this guitar. If this sells, it's fine. Maybe I'll order one in this color. But I've always wanted a guitar in this color because this color, and it may not be the exact DuPont color, but going back to car culture, in the late 90s, there was a very limited run of Ford Mustang Mystiques, and those old enough to know will remember it was a Mustang GT, or no, it was a Cobra, and it was in this particular color from DuPont, and it was a color shifting Mystic finish, which is what this is, and it looked very much like this, and so again, more hot rod car culture stuff. I dig it. So
they're very cool. These are the first two, I think, of 6 that we have coming from that event. Solid colors. We have a really cool pearl white one, which is like kind of a favorite of mine just because I love a white guitar, but with that little bit of flake in there. It's gorgeous.
He has a white truck too. So.
I do. And then we do have one of the quilt tops coming, but I'm excited to see the tops that we picked because pick colors on them. It's going to be really pretty. There's a pale ale, which is going to be great on the bird's eye, and then on the other one we picked, I think it's like an indigo kind of transparent blue burst. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah. We have the photos of the tops if you want to see the specs that we picked and pre-order one of those, but these are the first 2 right here. Alamo Music Powers Electric, and they're awesome. They're really, really cool.
So if you want more information about all the specifications, you can go to our website, which is
alamomusic.com.
You can check out the product pages on these. We're going to have a landing page. You can reach out if you want to have basically a conversation on custom making one with whatever color you want to go with, and maybe even some guidance on what hardware and pickup configuration would work best for what you want to do. At some point, we're both going to own one of these guitars, and it may be my go-to guitar. So I'm excited about them. I hope you're excited about them. I'm excited to carry them. So let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you're new to our channel, tell them what they should do, Cooper.
You're going to want to subscribe to the channel and turning notifications on so when we get cool one-off stuff, and then you're going to want to send them to your friends and make them comment as well and tell us what they want to see. And like the videos if you like them. And like them if you don't like them.
There you go. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.